folks, here at OS Reviews. You're watching our video first look and a quick review of the ThiEYE V5s. This is an all-new 4K action camera that sells for around $85 online. You can find some links down below. ThiEYE has been producing action cameras pretty recently, and their products are very innovative, and the V5s is a good example because it gives you new features that I've never seen in an action camera before, such as swappable lenses that physically changes the optics and the nature of the image, stretching or shrinking the field of view, stuff like that. In addition, it supports full Wi-Fi, so you can connect it to a companion app and record video or control it using a smartphone. It also has an extremely wide-angle lens by default, and of course it is waterproof as expected, and the lens again is up to 170 degrees field of view, which is very impressive on paper. It uses an Allwinner chipset, and again it gives you a few different lens filters to play around with, that we'll take a closer look at in a second. Inside the packaging, there's access to the camera right on top, and immediately we see that this has almost a different look compared to cheaper and more generic action cams on the market. It has, again, this oversized lens that requires a larger kind of protective element on the waterproof casing, and you have access to controls as well for accessing all the various menus and programs without removing it from the casing. Now, if we do remove it, we can take a closer look at the design. There's access to a fairly standard 2-inch display on the unit. Now, this is not a touchscreen unit like the newer DB Power Action Cam, but regardless, it's pretty easy to use. The build quality is also significantly better than any other action camera that I've reviewed in the past, just because the entire front is made out of aluminum with chamfered edges, and there's a carbon fiber texture running across the entire frame. So it seems very durable, and it seems like it's much more precise in its manufacturing process than other low-cost action cameras. The same thing even extends to the switch on the bottom, which you can operate by locking physically to prevent the unit from accidentally flopping open, and then unlock if you want to access the battery compartment, which is spring-loaded. So quite a lot of attention to detail on the mechanical parts and the colors and the details. Other contents of the packaging are typical for an action camera. You have a wealth of accessories included for various docks, as well as various mounts for bikes, helmets, stuff like that. There's a rather dense user manual that you can see gives you access to the QR code to download the companion app. In addition, tells you about the various elements that are included as part of the packaging in many different languages. In the larger compartment, we have access to the bonus accessories, which include a softshell carrying pouch. There's also access to the aforementioned kind of various mounts, which are all custom accented orange and black, which I think looks pretty nice. And there's also the battery pack that you can hot swap and charge. It's a 1,100 milliamp hour capacity battery, so it's also larger than average for an action camera. Finally, what you see as these kind of plastic containers are the film lens sets. Before launching into the software performance and in the companion app, there's actually a port that you can mount from the side to have access to the micro SD card slot, a mono speaker microphone, and also a mini HDMI port, along with a mini USB port for charging. So it's interesting they chose mini USB as opposed to micro or the newer USB Type-C even. So this is something that they chose to use the older technology with. The display is fairly decent. It's an LCD panel, but it's not IPS, so colors can seem a little bit washed out at extreme angles, but remains quite bright and overall visible even in outdoor conditions. You can see the Wi-Fi status, whether an SD card is mounted, and the battery information on the top right-hand corner of the display, along with the resolution and the frames per second in terms of the mode that you're shooting with. Time and date stamp is on the bottom, along with whether the microphone has been activated or not. You'll see an array of LEDs located on various parts of the camera to tell you the status of the unit. For example, whether it's being recording, whether it's on, whether it's off, or in standby mode. That gives you a visual indicator even if you're not looking at the display per se. Interface here is very simple and straightforward. It's no deviation from any action cam we've checked out in the past. Simply tap on the oversized record key here to start recording an image and navigate up and down to go through the menus. From the main menu, I can also hold up to turn the Wi-Fi on or off. So if I wanted to, the power key now acts as a mode selection key that cycles through other functions. For instance, tapping on it once goes to recording and taking images. Starts off at 12 megapixels, but this is a fixed focus camera like all action cams. So if you want something that's super up close, it may be a little bit harder to capture that completely in focus. Tapping on it again goes into slow motion 720p at 120 frames per second. Tapping on it once more goes into the file manager where you can play back instantly any images and videos recorded using the camera. So the interface is very simple and easy to get set up with. Taking a closer look at some of these lens kits that are included, they're closer to filters than what I would say is a lens that changes, the field of view of your image. It's still going to be consistently 170 degrees. Instead, you get one which is called CPL, the other which is called UV. And the CPL stands for Circular Polarizing Layer. It's a filter which works well in landscape and outdoor photography where you may have tons of reflections, and as a result will have an impact on your photos. So if you're shooting near water or a lake, the water that reflects back at you, will create glare and will, make the image not quite as clean as you want. So using this, you get a, more focused shot that is cleaner and cuts through all that reflective nature and gives you a bit more of detail. So also, if you're looking at images, in a city, maybe in an alleyway, it can also capture a bit more light and just bring things into a more realistic point of view, especially on super sunny days. So it works pretty well, and traditionally, on DSLR grade cameras, a CPL filter will retail for about 50 bucks or so. So this is just a special layer of glass. But again, it's included as part of this value, which again is pretty cool. The other one is called a UV layer, and this is a lot more simple. It's a lot more generic, and similar to the CPL filter. It both protects your lens, but in this case, it removes blue light from images in, again, very sunny environments. So as a result, again, if you're shooting at certain locations and you're pointing it towards the sun and outdoor environments, which you will be since this is an action camera in the first place, it's going to remove some of that fringing of color and unnatural reproduction. It's going to remove some purple and, again, bluish tints caused by sunlight at certain angles in your shots, and again, just produces a more realistic and natural looking image. So you have the ability to have your pick and play around with these filters. In regular environments, especially in indoor shots, I didn't really see a massive difference, to be completely honest, just because there isn't too much glare if I'm shooting, a room or doing a vlog or something like that. But indeed, if you're using this outdoors, that's where the effect becomes most apparent. So anyways, that's a brief, differentiation between the two lenses. And next, we're just going to do a few sample clips. Shown from those sample shots, you could tell that the image quality here is actually very good. It's clear. I would say it's actually almost on par with more expensive GoPro action cams. It certainly comes very close, and it's certainly one of the best qualities I've seen in a consumer-grade action camera out of the numerous units I've tested through the last 2 years. So that really says a lot about how well ThiEYE have done with the optics. It captures a nice amount of detail as well. It's a fixed focus camera, so again, it does best in outdoor environments where you have plenty of light, and also you're capturing landscapes as opposed to things that are really up close. But the ultra-wide angle lens really helps if you're vlogging, and also if you're walking around. It seems to stabilize some of the shakiness, even though there isn't necessarily optical image stabilization built right on in. Again, the build quality is also excellent. Next, we're going to take a quick look at the app. So the companion app, I'm going to turn on Wi-Fi right now and toggle to this. And the app, which is a free download in iOS and in the Play Store, is simply called ThiEYE, and you can download it. This is what it looks like. Let's tap on this once, and after a few seconds, it's going to say find a camera to connect to, and then tapping on connect, it's going to search using Wi-Fi, hopefully find the ThiEYE cam after a few moments. If it doesn't work, you can always go into the main settings of your phone, go to Wi-Fi, and then find the camera and enter the password displayed on the bottom, which by default is 1234567890. Not a great password, but it works. So afterwards, you can see that the display of the camera will be off just to save on battery, but you can see that it's going to push the image over to the phone as the viewfinder. So you get a larger field of view to see what you're capturing, which is quite helpful in many situations. What's most impressive here is there's very little latency. You can see that everything that's happening via the camera is almost instantly pushed over to the phone, and there's maybe one split second of lag, but everything seems quite smooth, and there were no real instances of sluggishness during my testing. Your images and shots remain pretty clear regardless of if you're looking at through the camera or through the phone, and you get the same overall effect. And from here I can also adjust things like the resolution. 1080p 60 frames per second is by default. Start recording a video with a oversized record key, and also start taking an image. A burst mode and a self-timer mode are also options, and by default again it's 12 megapixels. Otherwise, I can also tap on settings over here to take a look at my specific video resolution. I can capture a time-lapse, slow motion, photo burst, white balance, Wi-Fi configuration, things like that. And there's also a visual indicator of how much battery is left in the camera along with the reception of the Wi-Fi. So all in all, a very simple interface and very straightforward. Capturing an image is also quite snappy, and there's not too much delay going on. Going back, I can also take a look at my album, and this will pull up all the files that you have stored on your camera so that you can view it back using Wi-Fi. And the same thing goes with videos. They can be played back without any issues, and the camera does record sound as well. Otherwise, the camera supports micro SD cards up to 128 megabytes, so no real complaints as far as the configuration and the size, and it remains fairly cool during operation. It doesn't really overheat or get too warm either, which is, again, pretty good. And so overall, the interface of the app is clean, it's straightforward, and it complements the camera well. Everything that you really want to do can be accessed on the phone. One thing though that you can't do is necessarily store videos or take images and store them to the phone's memory. Like most action cams, they are still stored on the physical unit itself. But other than that, it works very well, very little delay, and I had no real bugs or crashes during my testing. So that's been the ThiEYE V5s. Overall, this is definitely the best low-cost action camera that I've reviewed so far, and I've seen dozens of these action cams through the years. And that's simply because ThiEYE did such a great job with the build quality of making it made out of aluminum as well as carbon fiber, the fact that everything is quite ergonomic, easy to use, and the fact that you get some fancy filters for more professional photographers out there at this affordable price is excellent. Image quality is also very strong, especially for outdoor uses and sports. So no real complaints there, and I think with nice styling and good performance to back it up, this definitely should be an action camera to consider if you're not set on a GoPro or if you want to save on a little bit of cash. So thanks for watching this video here at OS Reviews. This has been our review of the ThiEYE V5s, an all-new action camera.